Okay, the Commissioners will meet in a workshop session, May 5th, 10 a.m. The first item is call to order, and the second is presentation of non-consent towing in Brazos County.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners, Mr. Garrett, the sole member of the public, and my fellow and county employees. So we're having a workshop today about non-consent tows. It's something that hasn't been addressed in a long time, and one of the things we learned from getting ready for this workshop is it is time for a reevaluation of the resolution. There's some probably upgrades that you're going to want us to make, but just to kind of get to that point, let me run through this with you guys. Don't know how basic you want to go, but that's the definition of a non-consent tow. It's initiated by law enforcement and conducted at a law enforcement scene or evidentiary crime scene in the unincorporated areas of Brazos County. One of the things that we were looking for was try to determine what the number of that would be, and currently 911 dispatch doesn't keep track of whether a non-consent tow got sent out inside or outside the city limits. And we can talk with them to see how hard it would be to do that, but currently they don't have the ability to differentiate between one that was inside and outside the city.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have a car accident and the car needs to be towed away. And the driver says, I want to send it to quadruple A wrecker service. And they go to quadruple A wrecker service.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not considered a non-consent tow.
No, ma'am, that's a consent tow.
Okay.
Even if they're leaving in the ambulance, and if it goes to someplace they direct, it's a non-consent. My understanding is that even if you're getting arrested, and as you get in the car, you tell the guy, hey, would you haul it to my grandma's house over at 115, North Main, and they say, sure, that's a consent tow. I'm sorry. And then, so we don't have anything to do with the charges and the fees for non-consent tows. For consent tows, yes. Yeah. We only have unincorporated non-consent. Any other questions?
Nope. Thank you.
All right. So this is well, there we go. This is a piece of the statute 2308-203 of the Texas Transportation Code that talks about towing fee studies. You as the governing body of a political subdivision have the authority to do those. If you have a resolution to that effect, and you certainly do, and then the purpose of the towing fee study is to basically determine the fair value of the services that the various towing companies are providing when they commit these, when they do a non-consent tow at our law enforcement request. Any questions? I said transportation, this is occupation code because it deals with towing. Any questions about that? All right. So this is just a little bit of history about where we have been in the past. The non-consent towing fee order was adopted in 2009. In 2020, we had a meeting with Constable Lampo and some of the towing companies. We didn't actually get a formal request, but we took the comments made at that meeting as a request for a towing fee study, which you all authorized. And we did that study. As a result of that study, I believe you have a copy of it in your file, but as a result of that study, we got, of the 17 companies, we got one response back, and it was a partial response. It was not a complete response. And so the decision at that time was, since we didn't have a towing fee study that justified a change in rates, no, the rates were not changed.
So our rates have been in effect since 2009?
Yes, ma'am. So this is what we asked for in the towing fee study. We asked them for income statements. We asked them for some balance sheets, their invoices for the last 12 months only for non-consent tows, and then we had a survey that was attached that we asked them to fill out that asked some questions relative to this. We have heard through third parties that they thought that was too much, but none of them contacted us and said, hey, I'll complete the survey, but I'm not giving you this other stuff. They just pretty much ignored it. I think one of the local guys came in and basically said, hey, just so you know, it's nothing personal, but these guys aren't going to answer your survey. So, and he was correct. One of the things that staff would probably recommend if we're requested to redo this is to tone this down a little bit. For one thing, if we got 17 companies giving 3 years of balance sheets and income statements, we don't physically have the time to evaluate that much information, even if they did give it to us, and they're not going to. But, you know, certainly copies of all their non-consent tows for the last month, last year, is certainly a reasonable thing. But we need something to justify a change in rates. Time is one of them. We can look at some difference in expenses from the time that we passed this study till now. TDLR, the Texas Department of License and Regulation, they've amended their rates, which are the rates that would be in effect if we didn't do anything. We'll get to those in a minute. But so there's things that we could do if you direct us to do another towing fee survey study. And probably the thing you'll mostly be interested in, if I hit the right button, there's where we stand compared to a number of counties, and at the bottom compared to TDLR. We are on the low end of the counties that we are able to get information from. We're on the low end of the statewide rate, which would be the TDLR fees in the dark brown at the bottom. One of the things that wasn't available in 2009 was a medium duty tow. They weren't differentiated that way. That would be something that staff would recommend that we address that in an amendment of the resolution if you choose to do that. Any questions about the rates or?
Yeah. Williamson County has the 195 plus and the 350 plus. What does the plus mean? Is that
Excellent
in
question.
circumstances?
So we don't address it in our resolution, but TDLR has in some of the things that they do. They have extra fees for specific actions taken during a tow. It would be something as like if they had to use a crane to pull a car out of the ditch as opposed to just hook up and haul it off from the side of the highway. There's fees like that can be added to a tow. One of the ones that I think staff would recommend that be considered in a new resolution is mileage. There is no difference in the fee paid to a company that picks up a car at 2818 and Highway 6 and a car just this side of the Navasota River down on Highway 6 going south. It's the same fee. And one of the things that would probably address a lot of the concerns we heard from towing companies when they came to that meeting would be to give them mileage. That would make up a great deal for some of their complaints about tows. Not yet, but we have a place for you.
Well, I was wondering if they don't know what the difference between light, medium, heavy is.
Okay.
That's actually the truck that they're using. A light duty is what you see a typical wrecker, one that has the bar on the back, single driver. Medium duty is a rollback. That's one where they put the vehicle actually up on the truck. And the heavy duty is 1 ton or better, because a rollback is limited still on the weight that they can use. So there are bigger trucks. So there's 3 classifications of trucks that you got to look at. So a light duty, like I say, is just the regular wrecker that you would see running in the road. The medium is the rollback. The heavy duty is like a bigger 18-liter looking trucks or 450s or better that they're towing with. Sorry.
No, you're good. Any other questions now? All right. Well, come on. There we go. So yesterday, Constable Ampo received some information from a few companies about how many tows they did. Of the information he received, there was information from 3 companies that gave us sufficient detail that we could calculate how many tows those three companies average per month. And that's the bottom of the triangle there. Those three companies average 1.6. Assuming that their average, and it's a rotation, so they all get the same number of calls, they're not obligated to take them, so some companies may take more than others, but if we assume that that 1.6 average is correct, and you extrapolate that through the 17 companies on the list, and then do that for 12 months, you get an estimate that there are 340 non-consent tows in the county in 2021. It's not scientific since the sample pool was only three companies, but it's the best estimate we have of how many tows are covered by your resolution. All right. And this is, well, we already covered this, but these are the things that we are suggesting that if we're going to revise our resolution, some of the things we consider including in the process. One, we need to go ahead and do a new study. We need to potentially, with your permission, maybe reduce the amount of information we're asking from the towing companies. Even without a response that would allow you to change rates from the current resolution, if we add the new category of medium duty fees, that would address a great deal of their concerns. And then finally, item number 3 would be to add something like mileage or some of the other towing related charges where they do more difficult tows. They would be allowed a fee to that effect for those specific activities. Any questions about those items? Don't want to go too fast, but. So now we came to Mr. Garrett's part of the presentation. As our lone citizen, is there anything else you wanted to add?
You can go up there.
Yeah, you need to come up here so it can be recorded.
If this is being recorded, would you mind repeating a little bit of what you said earlier, just so that the mic's actually in the mic?
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. Do I need to state my name, date of birth?
All of it.
Social security number, credit card numbers.
Name of kids, all that kind of fun stuff?
Well, we need 3 years of
Maiden name
profit
of
and
your
loss
mother.
statements.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Currently not.
My name's Silas Garrett. I am a business owner here in town that I deal with the record services continuously. On the repeat of what I said with the slide of the light duty, the medium duty, and the heavy duty trucks, the light duty trucks are regular wreckers. Those are the ones that have just the tow bar on the back that they can pick up a car easily with single person. Medium duty is what they call a rollback. That's where they put the vehicle actually up on the truck on a flatbed area of the truck that has to be winched up onto it. The heavy duty is the vehicles that are 1 ton or better. The F-450s, 18-wheelers, different items like that. That is what they classify as a heavy duty truck. So I guess where do you want me to start on some of this from the beginning? I have had an opportunity to talk to some of the record companies here in town. The record companies, the information that the county wanted from them was too much information. 3 years worth of tax returns, profit and loss statement from what they gathered, you know what I'm saying? It was a little more. So I went out and told them, I said, look, all I need is information for the non-consent. County only, not city, county only. The number that y'all have is a little low. My best estimate that I have that I can come up with is they've done about 700 non-consent tows between DPS, SO, constable on what we have. Now with that, non-consent tows, yeah, a lot of them are people that are being arrested, so it's easily went out, picked up, put on a trailer, and hauled off. But there are some non-consent tows where they're out there for a couple of hours on scene because issue with getting, you know what I'm saying, car inventory, getting car if it's rolled over into a ditch, if it's, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So they are spending time out there. They need to be able to recoup time. It's like anybody else in the world. We want to be paid for the time that we're doing, that we're involved with out on a tow, but they want to make sure that it's realistic. Because, as an example, just for peace of mind and information purposes only, you see these signs around parking lots where it says, you know, if you park here, you can be towed. Well, those tows are $300 to $350. Those are what they call snatch and grab. They just run out there with a regular wrecker, they grab them, and off they go, because they're parked in the wrong spot. Like I say, they get anywhere between $300 and $350 depending on the wrecker service that's there. Well, with the monies that are being paid with the county, it's not even close to what they could make doing that. So they want to race, they want to work for the county, they want to do the non-consent tows, they want a collaboration of people on the rotation system. Because it's easier for the wrecker companies, that way they're not, one company isn't just bombarded with whatever they have, but they need to be able to know that they're going to at least get paid for what they have. Like Lampo has stated, yes, it does come out in the wash, with the regular ones that they can pick up, grab, and go, and off they go. They're fine, and the ones that are out in the ditch somewhere. But there are extenuating circumstances on some accidents. That's something that can be covered in another workshop. At this point, we just need to they need to get more realistic, or the county needs to get more realistic with the amount of dollars that are being paid for these non-consent tows. The survey was a little extraneous for some of these record companies. Now, don't get me wrong, these are really nice guys. Sometimes some of them don't look as pretty as I am, but they are really nice people. They work hard. They care about what they do. They care about going out onto the scene. They will follow the rules if a rule is implemented that is normal. Wear a uniform shirt, name a company, who you are, TDLR. They are required, with their insurance, and they got to get drug tested annually. They have all these different rules through the state. So with their licensing, they have to be literally a legitimate company, to where years in past, one guy could open 5 wrecker companies and kind of skirt the system. Well, with the new rules that the state's implied, it's harder for them to do that, where one person can only have a company with a storage yard. So if they have 2 storage yards, yes, they can have 2 companies, but it's under the umbrella of one company to store that car. So it makes it easier there, so there's no skirting the system on some of this. We want to make sure that they're there to do what they're supposed to do. I have my opinions on what they should be paid. Just to be honest, as a citizen, knowing that they're going out there, they should be paid anywhere between $250 and $300 for each non-consent tow. There are extenuating circumstances where they have to use a wrecker. There are some things that they would like to be seen. If they pick up a non-consent tow in the city of Bryan, the fire department's normally there on scene because it's a wreck. The fire department helps cleans up things, gets it in a pile. The record service has to pick that up and leave it with the car, because that is part of the car. Now there is trash, glass and things like that they can get rid of, but headlights, bumpers, different things like that have to be with the car. Well, if they pick up a non-consent tow out in the county that's a wreck, the volunteer fire department stands there and looks at them and says, "That's your job. You got to clean that up." Well, sometimes that could take an hour, 2 hours to clean up the scene to ensure that there's nobody else is damaged. You got to think, most of us, well, most of the gentlemen here, we carry tools in the back of our truck. Well, if our truck flips over and I got rakes and wrenches and stuff out in the ditch or in somebody else's pasture, that record driver has to stand out there and pick all that up that he can find. So I know a lot of record companies that have to go back in the daylight, because not all wrecks happen during the day, a lot of them happen at night. They have to go back the very next day to finish picking up, to ensure that everything that was that customer's car is with that customer's car. Now, everybody inventories the car. Sheriff's Department inventories the car, DPS inventories the car, constables inventory the car. The only inventory sheets that they get are from DPS. Nobody else provides them this inventory sheet, because when the customer comes and picks up their car from the storage facility, if they look at that record driver and say, hey, I had $500 in my console, well, they have no proof that it wasn't there. They need this inventory sheet. They need a way to prove what was there in that car, instead of having to call to the county or the sheriff's department trying to find where that was at. Was it already filed? Was it already done? It could take a day or two to even get the inventory sheet. So that's something that it's already 3 copies. They could hand the record driver could sign it, the SO or DPS or constable could sign it, and it solves a lot of issues. There's things that are more and above what's happening right now that, like I say, can be addressed at other workshops. But at this point, their main concern is let's get paid for what we do. In town, it's a 4 or 5 mile round trip. You go down there to County Line, South College Station, that's a 50-mile round trip. And they're losing business from other calls just to make that one call. But they're doing that because it's a service they want to provide to the county to do all this. And they just want to make sure that they're there and they can do what they need to do and get paid for what they're doing.
May I ask a question with regards to mileage?
You're going to have to speak up. I'm sorry, Ms. Colley.
May I ask a question regarding mileage?
Yes, ma'am.
Where would the mileage, in your view, start? Does it start at the center of town? Where would you start charging mileage as a tow driver?
Record
driver.
At the facility, at the record facility, to the scene, back to the record facility.
Okay.
It would be like myself in my business. When one of my staff goes on a class or whatever, it starts from my facility. Mileage starts from the facility to where they're going, back to my facility.
Okay.
So, Silas, at the back of Bruce's presentation, there's a list of all the service companies in town. It appears that there's only one firm in College Station, and all the other companies, at least are on our list, are Bryan firms. I guess my question is twofold. One, is it reasonable to say that anything within the city limits that they're not charging mileage on, so that we could actually begin the extra mileage charges, anything that was outside of the city limits of both cities? And then my next question is, in every industry, there's obviously some firms that are not either qualified, they don't have the resources, maybe they just don't have the experience or whatever. Is it possible that we could come up with some sort of a criteria that people that were allowed to work in the county met a certain experience level or something? I'm asking, do we just open it up to all the firms that do business here, or do we try to restrict it?
At this point, without a true baseline, without a true, way to judge good, bad, or indifferent, it would be hard to say, well, we're only going to let A, B, and C do it. Sure. You would have to create a true baseline to find out the good and the bad record services. With that said, the record services, they will get a complaint. The city of Bryan has a way
to determine good and bad record services. If they get a complaint, let's say the record driver shows up and he's in basketball shorts, he's in flip-flops, he's not dressed appropriately to do this tow, the city of Bryan will send them off and call somebody else, and they will suspend them for 30 days. If they don't correct the problem within that 30-day period, they'll suspend them for a full year off the list. Well, y'all don't have a list of complaints or a list of ways to judge this area. At this point, we can start something, or y'all can start something to determine good, bad, or indifferent. How many people are getting complaints? How many people are showing up late? Because they, you gonna be all right?
Just beat up on the judge.
There actually are evaluating
Right.
Taking their information, but we always don't know that.
I
What
asked,
he's talking about is if we go into that, we're gonna have somebody inspecting records.
Right.
We'll have to have
I'm sorry.
somebody going out looking at
It's not gonna
yards.
be on the recording if you're not at the.
Okay.
Can we stop for just a second? So just to correct one thing, we do keep track of all of that. It's an agreement with the city of Bryan. They maintain the list and they maintain the credentials and check for the insurance. So we are doing something,
Yeah.
but it's being done by the city of Bryan
Yes.
for us because they had the staff already in place to do it.
Correct, and we followed their lead, but that we followed the Constable Lampo, Precinct 2. If we follow their lead, it'll be good, but if we want to do our own lead, then we're going to have somebody inspecting them, inspecting their yards and stuff to stay in compliance. We've been doing very well with Brian's list, but Brian puts them off the rotation. They don't come to the county calls. They don't come to the sheriff or the constable's calls or DPS. I'd say let's, if we can, leave that intact and let's work from there. But to back up a little further is the survey was way too detailed for them.
Correct.
We need to bring it down, get some information. I, for one, I'm not for mileage because I've seen it abused in the years past. Mr. Garrett's already made reference that my comments are, you get easy ones, you're going to get a hard one. I think they balance out. From my 35 years in the volunteer fire department and working accidents, they balance out. Are there going to be some bad ones? Yes. That they're going to have to work harder to get. Are there going to be some where they just go? Yes. I've just seen, like I said, in years past, I've seen them when they had free reign. We had a chain usage fee. We had a decontamination fee. We had a winching fee. We had a broom fee. We had a sweeping. We had one towed from Texas Avenue and WJB to Highway 60. $1,250. That's when, back in '09, Mr. Wasserman and I got involved with doing this because of that. I don't think we're going to go back there. I don't think those guys want to go back there because we can't go back there. It's just not good for the citizen. They need a raise, first of all. They do need a raise because this hasn't been addressed since '09, like we were saying. Feasible, $350, $400, I don't think anybody would have a problem with. But as Bruce said also, we have to have some information to give y'all to work with to get this fee. The years past, it was like we were taking their children. It was very difficult to get information out of them. And after really seeing the list, back then I didn't pay any attention because I was so mad at record companies. I just wanted to do something because all of the overcharging that was going on. Yeah, we hit them pretty hard. As I've talked to a couple of you about, I was in business for myself for years. If you come ask me for a P&L, I'd went, no, you're not getting it. You won't get it. And that's what they've came up with too. And can't say that I blame them. Can we bring that down and maybe not ask for so much information? But we're gonna have to do it to get them for y'all to be able to give them a raise and a proper raise, and they need it.
Constable, do you think asking for 12 months of invoices for the county is a reasonable request?
I think so, yes, ma'am. Non-consent. We don't care about nothing else. We just
Yeah,
want
just
non-consent
non-consent,
tows. Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. I don't think that's that
No, I don't
far-fetched,
think
no.
they have a problem
No.
with that.
Oh, one at a time.
I really don't. I really don't think there's a problem with that, because once they were told that in the last 5 days, we got some information. The basic information we were asked. Previous to that, when we were asking for a whole lot of information, we didn't get anything.
Yeah, in fact,
So-
when I looked at the towing fee studies, I mean, and I didn't even know it until just, this all came back up, but it says a respondent submitted data shall reflect information for their towing as well as non-towing business. So it's, I mean, there's no question, this one was over the top. You know, we need to go back and readdress about what kind of information
Yes.
would be required to do a study. I mean, that's just, you know.
And the survey needs to be toned down.
Sure. Well, it would reflect.
And the
that
survey
towing-
needs to be toned down.
Well, the survey would reflect what's in here. I mean, this is the order, so we change this order, and then the survey would reflect what we have in the order. But as long as the order doesn't say things like that, I mean, it was like non-consent, consent. That's what was requested in this order that was passed in 2009.
For the way they took it, they wanted not only their tow company.
It says it in
whatever
here.
other company they had, they wanted information on it. Well,
Well, that's-
as a business owner, I wouldn't have given it to you.
Yeah, well, I understand. I agree. So, this needs to be addressed. This ordinance that was passed needs to be, updated and corrected.
The record drivers is a consensus. Is, you know, I've talked to about 9 different companies, I guess, as I could say. I didn't say I didn't talk to all 17. But they want to work with the county. They want to do the non-consents. They do want to do it. But the information they want to provide is limited to what they're due for the county solely. The non-consent, so.
Constable Lampo, I was gonna ask you, the list that 911, I guess it's 911 that actually makes the calls, I'm
The
sure.
rotation calls?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's City of Bryan's list right now. In other words, that's the list that we work off.
That's the one that DPS, SO, and the constable work off of, yes.
I don't have a problem with that. That makes
No.
sense.
No.
Yeah, and I'd just like to make one
Explain.
correction. Let me just make one correction, South. When you were talking a while ago that it made it sound like the county pays these fees. It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
the
I'm sorry.
car owner. Yeah.
I knew that.
I am not quite sure of the non-consent towing. Is that when a person is arrested and the car is left? Is it when in the county? Do we park in no parking zones and the car is towed? What would constitute a non-consent? I mean, do you have someone stop with a sheriff deputy that says you're drunk and you can't drive, so we're gonna tow your car?
Yes,
What,
ma'am.
what does a non-consent towing fee cover?
It covers when law enforcement calls for the tow.
Is it
If-
only
if-
law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I've seen cars on the side of the road, on county roads. Sometimes they'll have a tag on it, but no tow truck comes. Do they ever pick up those types of cars? Then tell me, how do owners of those cars find out where the cars are?
Call 911.
That's the only way?
Yes, ma'am.
And 911 would know?
Yes, ma'am. Because they're involved in sending out the tow company. They can identify the tow company. If they say, you know, I left my car on the side of Macy Road and I went back 2 weeks later and it was gone, 911 would be able to tell them, well, it was towed on May the 2nd by ABC Towing Company. Here's their phone number.
But from that date of tow, 30 days, the towing company has to send a letter out to who the registered owner is to let them know also.
Okay.
Correct.
And we're sure nobody is violating that
if we're working a wreck and you ask the person that's being put in the medic, do you have a record company? We all do
Yes,
this.
yes.
Do you have a personal record you want to use? No. It's rotation. It's not always being arrested or this, that, and the other. They
Right.
could just be involved in an accident.
Yeah.
Right,
They're from out of town. They don't have a clue who a record company is. And we tell them, do you have a personal? We'll ask them, and they say no. Well, there's a rotation list. Get me one of those.
okay,
And then that's a non-consent tow.
right.
Here-
Okay. Where do the consumer go if they feel the tow company has abused them? What would I'm thinking of constituents in my precinct 4, limited income, maybe non-employed, but, had some car trouble. Car stops on a county road. Their car is picked up and towed away, and they may not know who got it and when it was taken. But you're telling me all they have to do is call 911.
Yes, ma'am. And if it's in the county, I mean, the sheriff's office would generally know about things like that, because the deputy's going to be involved in making the call for the pickup of a car that's just been
But we don't monitor
abandoned.
any abuse of that.
We haven't been informed that that's been a problem in the past. And I don't know that we have a whole lot of those, the engine blew up and I pulled over and it took me 2 days to come back with my friend's truck to pick it up. I think normally
Well, I've
they're.
seen the same car on
Yeah.
the side of the road several times in my passing. And I've never seen a tow truck pick them up, but I do know from some constituents that the car has been removed. Assumingly, it couldn't run, so a tow truck would have.
Right.
Ms. Colley, we have to tag that car.
Yes,
Put a
I've seen
notice
your
on that car.
tags.
They're usually an orange one or a
Yes,
red one.
you're
Give them so
right.
many days, and then after that time frame, then it'll be towed.
Yes.
And they'll inform dispatch or 911 where it's going and stuff. And that's the easiest way. Just call
Yeah.
911, they'll let them know. Then they can go talk to the record company and see
But
what it's
no
gonna take
rec-
to get it out.
But no record company would pick up a car.
Just snatch and grab, no ma'am.
Right.
No ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Silas, using that example that Commissioner Colley just said, that car, if a record company picks it up, there's a chance that the owner might not want to recover that car. What happens then?
Well, when a car is impounded like that, the record company sends out a letter, notice that they have the vehicle, then they give them so many days. If the car is what they deemed abandoned, the customer does not want it again. Let's say they go out and pick up a 2020 Hyundai Elantra that's worth $300. Well, they got $500 worth of tow charges on it. The customer's not going to want the car back. The record company actually has to go down to the tax office and file for a title for it, which costs money to file for this title. Now, when they get the title, of course, then they have to pay taxes on this car, this newly acquired car that they get. Then they pay the taxes on it to get into their company name or their own name. Then they have to be able to sell it or sell it for scrap. A lot of times they're taking a loss on this. It's not that they're recouping their money on that, because it costs anywhere between $500 and $1,000 to get a title on a car, at least abandoned vehicle. Like myself, I have 4 or 5 cars in my lot that are the same way. I don't want to get a title on because it's going to cost me too much money. It's easier just to kind of let them hang out for a little while. But a record company can't do that because their lot would get overfilled. So they have to be able to get rid of the cars. So a lot of times they're stuck with these cars that cost them money to get rid of in one way or another. So.
And we don't have any control over that process. That's actually a statutory,
I
a
wondered if there was a
statutory
statute
process
on
that they
that,
have
yeah.
to go through to get, that's me. It's a statutory process they follow on vehicles like that.
So that's really not under consideration on the tow charges?
No, sir.
That's just an aside.
It's a related issue with them, but
Yeah.
no, sir.
Well, It's
Are we
good to
today
know.
gonna set rates? Are we gonna set rates today?
No, we won't set rates
No,
today. I mean, it's
this
just
is a
workshops.
workshop.
So I think this needs to be readdressed and
Yeah, the ordinance.
come up
the
with
order
an
needs to
ordinance.
be- The order needs to be addressed.
Right.
Exactly what you
Correct.
brought up in section 7, towing fee studies. You know,
Right.
that's.
And
You
it
know,
sounds,
The 4 items that were listed here in the request were all in the order itself for what was necessary. And, you know, we're hearing, you know, this is the first time we've had a study since '09 when this was enacted. And everybody said, no, I'm not interested in that. And as a
Well-
business person, I can understand that completely too. So that it looks like the order needs to be readdressed.
Yeah.
and Commissioner, it does seem as though we should reissue the survey after cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not, I don't want to preclude getting
You know,
information
I think
from
we
people,
would
but-
need that
but let's
information.
at least modify the order.
Yeah.
As where, you know, towing fee studies under section 7, where it talks about towing fee studies, that we're getting reasonable information from people that they are willing to provide in order for us to effectively help them out in managing what are their costs.
Yeah, I agree. I think the order needs to be addressed first, and then we can move forward with the study. I think then now we're back to the question, you know,
Yeah, and
Not-
it would it would also add in a medium duty tow as well, because that's
Yeah,
addressed in
correct.
the order too, so.
so, not this past Tuesday, but Tuesday before, we had a item on the agenda to allow surcharge for record companies because of the cost of diesel, gasoline and all current. And I mean, we know this thing was passed and these fees were all set 2009. And if we look at what all of those costs, fuel costs are today compared to what it was in 2009, there's no question it's gone up significant amounts. So my question to you is that is that what we had on the agenda Tuesday week ago for a surcharge? Can we do something in this interim? Because this is going to take a little while to readdress this order, and then do a survey and do all the things to come up with new fees. Can we put that back on the agenda in the next? Well, I think the next week is canceled, so it would be a following week. But do something for these guys a little sooner. You know, I don't know. This may take 2 or 3 months before we can get everything and
Yes, sir.
so
I think it's a very reasonable assumption on the part of the court that the price of gasoline and the time this study was passed and the current price of gasoline, especially with the recent escalation, justifies a.
You made, I gotta interrupt you though, you made it all the way from 2009 to 2013 when oil prices were very close to where they are now and gasoline and diesel prices were. Then 2014, they came down due to the fracking revolution that came about as far as that goes, and that brought them back down again. But if you go back and take a look from 2009 to 2000 and, you know, late 13, 14, we had gotten to these prices on gasoline before. So we weathered that one with this. I just want to point that fact out. If you go back and look at the actual prices of diesel and the prices of gasoline and oil on a per barrel basis, they have been where we are now, just a little bit shy of that.
We can certainly get you the information about what prices were at the time that the resolution was passed and current prices.
So let me ask.
In 09,
I
they
hear
were
what you're saying. So is your preference not to address any surcharge or anything? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm not saying that. I just want to state correctly that, you know, during the period of time that this has been in
effect since 2009 that there was a period of time where oil prices and diesel prices and gasoline prices were very comparable to what they are now, and came back down again. So, no, I just wanted to state that for the record. You know, I'm not against addressing something to give people some some relief relative to what if we're having problems with people. I mean, I have not heard from anyone, and we did not hear in the survey, and now I discover why we haven't heard from people in the survey is the requirements were beyond what they were willing to give. I understand that, but I just if we want to go ahead and if we're having a problem getting people doing consent tows, and if they are not happy about it after we get the survey put together the right way, I'd sure like to hear from them.
So to address one of the things you just said, and it's a question I have is the 17 companies that are on the towing study aren't changing. Nobody's getting off the non-consent tow list. And I would think if they were costing them money, they would be asking to be removed. But we don't have the information to evaluate what their positions are and why they are all still on the list.
So then, we're not having any problems getting somebody to do these tows right now?
No, sir.
Under our fee structure right now, we're not having, okay.
Well,
No,
I
sir.
certainly don't want anybody to, I certainly don't want anybody out there that's doing business in the unincorporated areas with regard to non-consent tows, to feel like they're being, that we've got them over the barrel because of the existing fees. I certainly don't want that to happen, but I have no input relative to that.
So what if I, in a very short period of time, got you average annual fuel prices from 2009 to the present, and then you guys could decide whether or not you wanted to put the surcharge back on the agenda or not? I think that information's readily
Well,
available.
I think, yeah, obviously since 2009, labor's gone up. A lot of other things have gone up as well. I don't think it's just the fuel situation, but I do recall that the fuel prices did from 2009 when this was enacted up through late 13, maybe early to mid 14. Oil was $100 a barrel back then. So.
On a different note, on our list of the record quick list, we have one that's highlighted in yellow. Can you tell me why that is? Priority towing?
Would that have been the one that responded to the, I mean, I wondered if that wasn't it.
No?
This is Misty's list directly from City of Bryant.
I don't.
For the record,
Highlighted.
The ones below the pink line don't apply. Those are purely repos.
Okay, but
that was additional information we didn't really need.
the
But I
one
don't know why
highlighted,
that particular company was highlighted.
But the one highlighted, we don't
Yeah.
know why it's highlighted.
We will ask.
You don't know.
you will ask.
We're in regular communication with Misty. We've worked with them several times on issues and these type of issues, so we can contact.
It would be good to know.
Okay.
That would be good information.
Since our 911 dispatch has these records, would also 911, the dispatch in College Station, have the records for the county area in College Station CTJ?
No.
No, they're
911
discharged
dispatches for the whole
dispatch.
outside the city limits, even in the College Station ETJ.
Okay.
And College Station has a completely different system than
Yeah, I
than we
know.
do.
I was wondering if,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and please let me reiterate, I don't want to have anybody feel like we're holding them over the barrel by fees that we've had in the past. But what I do want to do, to be able to do, is get input from them relative to, and we've had none, relative to why things need to be adjusted, and we really, I have none. And our survey had none. I mean, obviously, I would not be averse to putting a agenda item on there for a temporary, that if it were written up appropriately to say this is, you know, I don't wanna set fee expectations in advance of us redoing the order as well.
Well, I think what we had on the agenda was for 6 months, and then we would take a look again whether it was still needed or not. But, you know,
My expectation is before that time period ended, we would have a revised resolution.
In my precinct, the only concerns I've received, because I haven't spoken to a tow businessman, constituents complain that the fee is too high in my precinct. That's all I've heard.
Is it the towing fee or is it the storage fee?
It's the towing fee, and some have said the storing fee. I mean, it's just too much for people that don't have but a little. You know, I constantly hear the fees are too high. And by that, I'm sure that it goes into storing fees also.
Well, we don't set the stone.
And I understand that, but I'm just saying,
No,
you know, we're discussing this, and some people can't afford the fee that we're charging or allowing.
yes, ma'am.
Pardon me, I stand corrected. We're not charging, but the
No.
fees that we've allowed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the next item is to adjourn. Thank y'all.